get where you're coming from. I get where some other fans are coming from and the integrity of the game as well. But if it's me, I play hard, but I play hard in a different style. You said it, 3rd and 12, scrambling for his life, throwing balls downfield. Really, really probably would have done some different play calling to kind of solidify that game and found my way to get the number 1 pick.
All right. Let's see what Nelson from Fall River thinks. Hello.
Hey, gentlemen.
I have a feeling that he was laughing along with Chris.
Listen, it's so bad. It's so bad. And what they did, it's making Paul.
Yes,
that's what the Patriots are doing. It's making them cough up a lung.
Yeah, that was tough. I mean, did you watch that game? What were you thinking? Were you thinking like I was? Like, what the heck are they doing?
No, I wanted them to win the game. You want to know why? Is because it would have been a waste of a first-round draft pick for that team. Not for them. They don't deserve it. You want to know why they don't deserve it? It's because of what they did to their head coach. The way they fired Mayo is a huge disrespect to that man.
Paul and Nelson, I didn't look it up. Is that the fastest firing ever in NFL history?
It was the fastest because, here's the thing. I wasn't concerned about the draft pick. What I was concerned about as to what was going to happen to his job. Because here's what I was thinking. Okay, you have nothing to play for. You've earned a spot on the couch. Congrats. But you won this game, even though they pulled their stringers in, you still won the game to end the season on a high note. And then after he's done with the press conference, they fire the guy. They fired him right after the press conference. And I was saying to myself, this is going to be a very bad reaction across the NFL with former Pats like Gronk and them. They didn't like it. Not too long ago in Cowboys history, Jimmy Johnson 1-15 the first year, and then not too long ago after that, an improved record, and then next thing you know, the Cowboys ended up going back to back Super Bowls. Mm-hmm. This guy wasn't even given a shot to improve the team, and I do recall that the Lions, with the head coach who's doing a fabulous job. I don't think he had a good record in his first year, but they kept him, and yet they get rid of Mayo. This to me, it's not a good look for that organization.
All right, so what about that, Chris? Nelson speaks for a lot of people.
Well, as he says, Mayo is coaching to save his job, Paul. Does he know before I'm going to be gone after this if I lose? Am I going to be gone after this if I win? So, he's just trying to do what he can do to save a spot, to save a job, and come back next year. Or even if he does go, save face and maybe find a spot with another team the following year. So, I get where he's coming from, but I also get where the fans are, looking for high expectations. And, of course, Nelson's even more excited because the Giants jump in front of the Patriots in the draft order. So he's even more thrilled.
And not only that, Chris, Giants showed true loyalty. Yes, they had a bad season, but they kept their staff.
They did keep the ball.
Then you had the Pats fans who didn't even fill up the joint over there with their signs. Oh, fire the team. No loyalty. Zero loyalty that fan base showed on Sunday. It's just, this is something that you just don't do. And in my personal opinion, I don't think Belichick, I think if Belichick knew that Mayo was going to be fired after his first year, I don't think Belichick would have, put him in that spot. So to me, it's just a bad look. And quite frankly, if Vrabel, of all people, comes sign with the Jets, oh, that's the biggest goose egg for New England fans. Oh,
is that what you want to see? Do you want to see that? You want to see him go to New York?
Yes.
Oh, all
absolutely.
I don't think you'll go there, but I think the Bears could be a possibility. The Jaguars could be a possibility, and then obviously New England. So with the back end with New England, even this one, Nelson, we've heard from Tom Brady. I'll reach out to Mike Vrabel now that we got rid of Antonio Pierce over in Vegas. So watch out for that little move too.
Yes, Vrabel could go to that team. Yes, look, Brady has a lot of interest over there. You know, Vegas, I'll leave you guys with this. You know, Vegas have done a tremendous job improving the overall atmosphere over there. Yep. I mean, they have. It's not just about the tables and, you know, it's you could get football. You got hockey there pretty soon. Hopefully they bring basketball over there. So it's an up and coming market. And I think if Vrabel goes there, I think we'll have a great time, especially with Brady. So let's see what happens.
All right, Nelson, thanks for your call as usual.
Have a good one.
All right, Nelson from Fall River. I think the point he was trying to make wasn't so much on the last game. I think his point is that, okay, he's 4-13, first-year head coach, right? Gerard Mayo. He really didn't get a shot, you know, to have a 2 or 3 year plan. And there were a lot of coaches that went 1-15 the first year, as he pointed out, and then a couple of years later they turned it around. So if Mayo had the opportunity to say, do the draft, participate more in the draft this year, maybe the owner decides to spend a little bit more money. Could Mayo have revamped it next year? Could he have turned it around next year?
Okay, so now is that the coaching of Mayo? Is that the pressure from the fans booing at your home stadium, at your play, and to get rid of them? Does that put pressure on Kraft to say, hey, man, I can't have my fans like this, and so I got to get rid of them and go to another situation? That's a lot, Paul, that is on his plate, and they have to make that decision. So he made it right away, and I think he knew before that game, no matter what happens here, I'm pulling the plug on this guy, and I'm moving on.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think that's what he said, too, in his press conference, that he had kind of had his mind made up, but that Mayo didn't know. And I'm looking at the comments here. Of course, they should have lost the last game. Timothy Connick is with me, and I tell you, I haven't rooted against the Patriots, I don't think, my entire life. I've rooted for them every single game for like 50 years. And the one damn time that I want them to lose the game, they're slinging the ball all around. They're kicking 50-yard field goals. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Are you guys stupid? What's going on here?
Listen, I don't know if this is a carryover, but if you watched it last night, Edmonton beat Bruins 4-0, and Bruins got booed off the ice ball. Now what are you going to do? You got rid of the head coach, and you sent him to St. Louis. Now, where you go now? You go Neely and you go Sweeney? I mean, what's next? Because you even got the fans in Boston hockey now booing the team. So there's a lot to say about this city. And how these fans, these fans are hard and they are tough. And when you're not winning, and the small base of winning that the Patriots have lost right now, it's only been a couple of years. Imagine if this was going on 5-10, this would be something really big. So there's a lot going on in Boston sports with those two teams. And let's not forget about the Red Sox, how much they want to spend money on that organization to get them back. So if they don't turn it around, there's going to be boos at Fenway Park as well. A lot going on with those three sports.
You mentioned that people buy tickets to go to the game, and the people at that last game would be watching the game and kind of rooting for the Patriots. But when they went down to the sideline reporter said that every time the Patriots went for a first down or got a touchdown or kicked a field goal, there was all groans in the stands because I think the people that were there were thinking about it like me. They wanted the Patriots to lose, And
why even show up? You can do the same thing at home.
Well, I guess. Yeah, but you could get a $75 ticket though.
Yeah, forfeit the game.
You could get it cheap.
The game and say, hey, we're all, we're too banged up. We're all injured. We can't play. I mean, I find it tough to, watch fans, think in that mode. But yeah, they did. So, Marty Conceição says, so what? All these coaches that went 4-13 should be fired. Then with Kraft's logic, and they were experienced coaches. So, yeah, some guys got fired, like a Doug Peterson. Some guys stayed on, like Nelson said, the guy from the Giants, the Boley. So I think it comes down to, how the year went, how bad were you banged up, what was going on during the season, how you played against certain teams, and just what GMs think about their coaches and how far they want them to go. So some guys are going to pull the plug, and some guys get another fighting chance.
Ryan is in Rochester. Hello.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Been doing pretty good. I gotta say, even a few days later, I'm still stunned that they fired Mayo to begin with, because I thought Robert was going to hold on to it. But I'm especially even more stunned about how quickly it happened. It was like, what is it? Not even like 2 hours after the game. It was right after
90 minutes.
I was like,
Ryan, is that the fastest of all time, Ryan? Is that the fastest firing of all time?
I mean, it has to be the fastest that I've witnessed. I can't remember like a time. I can't remember a shorter time than that. Like,
me neither.
Because usually, at the very least, these guys last until the fastest one I saw otherwise was Arthur Smith at midnight last season. Like I know Josh McDaniels got fired last year, at 1 a.m. at one point, but this is easily the fastest one I've seen. To answer the question tonight, though. Oh, 1,000% they should have lost that game. 1,000%. And I don't think I've gone through over the past 5 years a lot of pain as a Patriots fan, but I'm not sure if it gets more painful than this. You got the number one pick right there. You're playing your backups most of the game, and somehow we got Joe Milton just slinging it around, which I'll admit was impressive to watch. So you got at least a long-term backup, if not some trade bait there. But at the same time, that was just rough because, on the one hand, moving from 1 to 4 isn't too bad. You're still in the top 5, but at the same time, if you're at the number 1 overall pick, you got so many options. You could stick in pick, or the thing I thought would have been most likely is if you get someone who wants to move up for, say, one of these quarterbacks per se. You could get maybe not the Chicago Bears haul that they got back a few years ago, but at least get some sort of good capital of maybe another first round pick, a second this year, something like that. So I just feel like it was a missed opportunity.
All right, Ryan. So tell me this: if you're a season ticket holder and it's the last game, do you want to go to that game? Do you want to watch them lose? I mean,
yes.
How do you look at it from a fan perspective?
Well, I'll say this: the Chargers game I went into hoping for a loss there, but I was able to see got to see Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert for the first time, so that was cool.
Right.
But I'm biased always because I was looking for the draft pick the entire year. Yeah. But I could see someone wanted to say like, okay, really, we're just going to be playing back. We're going to be backups versus backups, and going to try and lose the game. So I could see it from kind of both sides of it, but considering I've been kind of committed to this whole tank take the whole year, I'd probably still go if the tickets were cheap enough.
Oh, I remember you a few weeks back thought that they should fire Mayo. Then you walked it back. Then the next week you walked back. You're not going to walk back. You walk back, are you?
No. I'm sticking with that. I think ultimately that they made the right decision in doing that, because there just wasn't enough progress made in certain areas. Like the record was going to be a bad record either way because of how bad the roster is. But I think it just represents I'm glad that Robert took the accountability that he did too. And because I don't know if you guys saw the press conference.
Yes, I agree with you.
the first thing he said, like, this is on me. Yeah, it is. You should have had a better plan, after moving on from Belichick. You shouldn't have just, going 4-13 with Bill should have changed a lot of things, including that succession plan. Elevating a bunch of guys from that 4-13 staff, both on the coaching staff and the front office, that just wasn't going to help at all. And, and in a way, I do feel bad for Gerard because, like Robert said, he did kind of put him in a horrible situation. But at the same time, like, I think he could have done Gerard, even being as inexperienced as he is, could have done sort of more to kind of progress in certain areas. Like, I think it was Nelson before who had brought up Dan Campbell. Like, I personally don't like that comparison because even though he had a horrible record to start, I think I'm pretty sure, like, out of their bye week they went 3-3, and they actually showed some legitimate progress. You could see the culture that he was building there. This year, it just felt flat across the board.
Yeah, no question about it. I think for some reason he didn't really earn their respect. I think he tried to come across as the nice guy and all that, and kind of lost them, And I think,
right.
For example, you get Vrabel in there. I mean, Vrabel, whether you like him or not, I think he's going to command respect the moment he walks in that door, based on the
100%.
years of, being a coach. I mean, looking at Vrabel right now, I'm interested to get your thoughts on Vrabel. 56-48. Okay, it's a decent record. But, here's a guy who went to the AFC title game. He won a number of titles in terms of his division. They had a couple of years where they were 11-5 and 12-5, and he even knocked out the greatest of all time that last year in that wild card game. He came into Foxborough and beat the Patriots when they still had Brady. So, I mean, that's a pretty good record given the fact that you had, like, Ryan Tannehill as your quarterback, don't you think?
That was exactly what I was going to say. The fact that you went to an AFC title game and also, like, got to a number 1 seed with Ryan Tannehill as your quarterback, I think that's something in of itself. And, I see so many, like, Titans fans in the comments, like, oh, I love how the media is making him out to be such a great coach, because I think he is. Like, even before, like, the Patriots job came open twice, I still always been a huge fan of Vrabel, because I think kind of like the downfall of what was Tennessee, it wasn't exactly his fault, because he's not the one who wanted to trade away A.J. Brown, I wouldn't think, nor do I think that he wanted, like, a GM who, didn't want to work with him, but then also decided to fire him in a sort of a power move. And then it's actually funny. I was talking to Chris earlier that Rand Carthon, the guy who fired Vrabel, he just got canned. So love how that's going there with a friggin' Bill Callahan's kid at head coach. So what I kind of want to see, I want to see him, like, sort of in a situation like the Patriots, like, because you got, like, a young up and coming talented, what looks like to be a franchise quarterback. So to have a talent like that, I like to see what he does.
Was he also there when Derrick Henry left?
He was. I think that they both kind of left at the same time, because he got fired and then he signed with the Ravens.
Yeah. Okay.
I like Vrabel. I mean, I think that would be a good choice. I mean, Brian Flores' name got mentioned, Ben Johnson, a couple of other names floating around, but. I got to tell you, I'm kind of leaning toward Vrabel myself. And I think that's probably, if it turns out to be Vrabel, maybe that's why the firing happened 90 minutes of Mayo, because they wanted to get him out of there, get the interviews going so that they could try to negotiate something with him before somebody scoops him up. And, of course, you have to go through the Rooney Rule and so forth. So there's going to be a number of steps that had to be taken. So they didn't want to wait around. They wanted to just get that train moving right away. So I think that's why it happened the way that it did, unfortunately, for Mayo.
Can Josh McDaniels be another name?
For head coach, I don't think so. Like, I've seen some reporting that said, like, Josh might be like an OC candidate for wherever Vrabel ends up, but I doubt that he's in consideration for head coach again.
Yeah, he hasn't had a lot of success as head coach, for whatever reason. All right, Ryan. Well, I know you were sharing the pain because we had a few texts back and forth, and Ryan and I were not happy watching that game. Not happy at all. And Chris was off to the side laughing his ass off, because he enjoyed watching us Patriots fans suffer. That's
they made me stay. Listen, they made me suffer because I had 5 wins, and they go and win the last one and make 4.
That's true. That's true.
And think about some of them games during the year that they had chance in overtime and a couple other games that they could have got another win, and I could have got my 5. So not too thrilled by that either, but it is what it is.
the way I look at it right now that we've got to this particular point, I just want the Patriots to get back in the playoffs all the time. Even if they lose every year in the playoffs, I just want them to get back into the playoffs. I mean, if you lose, who cares when you're in the playoffs, as long as you get in. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
All right, thank you, Ryan.
No problem. Thanks for having me on again, guys.
You had to read a little into that one there.
Speaking of reading into, Marty Concesio comes out again, says, number one way to win is spend money proven over and over. Well, I remember a team spending a lot of money to get a couple of tight ends and a couple of more a few years ago, and that didn't work out well for the Patriots. So lost guys like Jonas Smith and a few more. So, but then again, he also says, I was there on given tickets, and a good number of season ticket holders were there still living on the glory, I'm sure.
Yeah,
that's probably true.
Well, he said he was given tickets.
Yes, he was.
Somebody was like, can you please take these off my hands? All right. Ben is in
back again. How about, should they start from scratch and get away from the Belichick effect? Start fresh away from a remnant of those glory years, which means you don't take McDaniels, you don't take Vrabels, you don't take Mayos. They just want fresh, Paul, like just brand new, nothing to do with former Patriots, just like totally new guys, like maybe a Brian Flores, somebody, a Ben Johnson, just something new regime, just come in and take over. And I actually like what Marty thinks right there. I don't mind that. I sometimes I think a new, fresh look is a good way to go. So Marty, I am agreeing with you on that. Paul, I know you like Vrabel, but I wouldn't mind seeing, just a new regime take over in that New England section.
Well, if they could find somebody that had a track record that was at least as good as Vrabel's or better, then I would think I would entertain that. But I just like the fact that Vrabel has been a head coach, and I would argue a fairly successful head coach, given, the plate that, he had to deal with. But anyway,
what he's done,
Ben is in Dartmouth. Hey, Ben.
Good evening, Paul, Chris. How you guys doing tonight?
Good. How are you?
How you doing there,
Great. It's great to be back. And last week I had a little bit of that conversation about me tired of losing. But I'm going to tell you, how the hell did we win that game? How the hell did we win that game?
I think why is the question. Why?
I mean, all season long, we were just losing, and then when it's the last game of the season, and then the Bills rested mostly all their starters, but they had most of their secondary, their starting secondary was still on the field. But how did you guys end up beating them?
I couldn't believe it.
I couldn't believe it at all. And, Patriots fans were right in booing Mayo off the field. I'm glad they got the job done before Mayo got into his car on Sunday night.
Paul, listen, Paul, I don't want to be working for Ben. Damn, man, he just damn me up right away. Ooh, I can't even get the guy. I might be gone.
Hang on.
At least we fired him.
Hi, hang on a second, okay?
Pelt had crappy play calls throughout the season. Some questionable play calls, I can say, on that game Sunday. But something had to be done. And at the same time, you had to blow up that house. You have to lead some new guy into your organization. I mean, Mike Vrabel, I'm all in on him. Ben Johnson, I'm all in on him. There's other guys that I'm all in, like Byron Leftwich, who we interviewed yesterday. I'm all in on him too. So whoever comes into this organization, I'll be happy with.
I like this comment here. I find it interesting that Ben says he's glad that Mayo got booed off the field, and he's glad that they fired him, and they should have fired him before he got to the car to drive out of the stadium. That's pretty harsh,
It probably was that fast.
So, Ben, I was throwing stuff at the TV. You said before, I'm tired of losing. But, this one here, just lose this one more. And they can't even do that right.
Yeah, it's just, you know what it is, Paul? I feel like it's just the New England Patriots trying to find a way to screw with everybody's emotions all season long. It started from that Indianapolis game when we couldn't stop a 2-point conversion. It goes on from the day this season started like that. When Jacoby Brissett took the starting job, you know, although they won the first game of the season against Cincinnati, but, you know, ever since then, they just fell down like they got blown away like an tent in inclement weather. I'm telling you.
All right, Ben. Well, maybe things will get better. Before I let you go, you know, here's another thought too, Chris. Right?
Yep.
McDermott wanted to lose the game just as bad as we did because I'm watching him on the sidelines. I'm like, this son of a bitch. He doesn't want the Patriots to get the number 1 pick. And he's over there walking back and forth, and he's just like screwing around. You know, he don't want to win the damn game either. He just did a better job of losing than we could. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and you know, and well, I mean, you're playing third stringers. You know, you're emptying the bench. I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, they went out there, and you know, even Marty says over here that it's like a going away present for Mayo because they knew he was going to be gone after the game. Do your press conference, say, and then as you leave your press conference, get in the locker room, they're waiting for you. Say, hey, you're fired, and he never even made it to the car. So that's a possibility.
All right, Ben. All right. Well, thank you for calling as usual.
All right. Thank you guys very much.
All right.
Have a great night.
Have a great night.
Thanks.
Okay. Butch is in a Cushnet. Hello.
Oh.
Hello.
Hey, Butch.
Hey, Butch. What's going on?
Hey, Paul. How you doing?
Better
Struggling.
than Sunday. I'm still recovering from Sunday.
He's struggling.
I got to tell you, there wasn't a whole lot to be, you know, jolly about on Sunday. But I must admit, when you were on the phone with Chris and I could hear what you were saying, there was some comic relief for sure.
Oh, man. I was so aggravated. I was telling my wife, I said, hey, I'm going to put the Patriots on, and I'm going to root for them to lose. This ought to be easy. You know, all year they've been losing. So as the game is going on, I'm like, I can't believe they're winning this damn game. My wife's like, my wife was laughing, too, because she saw me aggravated. But, geez, you know, it's not that hard to lose. Like, you know how to do it. You do it every damn week.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean, it couldn't have went any worse. I think, you know, losing the first pick. Now, listen, I'm the first one to stand up and say that professional athletes are not going to go out there and try to lose. They're just not going to do it, right? So I get it. But, you know, they did do a couple things. Like, you know, I mean, I brought in a rookie quarterback who hasn't really played all year, and all of a sudden the guy's, you know, moving the ball up and down the field, and they're competing, and it seemed like the players – I thought they had more enthusiasm on the last game of the season than they've had all year. They're jumping around on the sidelines and congratulating each other. And losing the first pick is really a setback because I wanted them to trade that pick. You know?
Yeah, you could have got so many different picks.
Yeah. Now, you know, not so much. I mean, fourth pick is still good. Somebody would want to trade up or something, but you're just not going to get the collateral that you would get, you know, with a number 1 pick. It's kind of unfortunate.
Listen, yeah. So, Butch, think about the NFL mock draft right now has 2 quarterbacks and the wide receiver / cornerback from Colorado as the top 3 picks. So 2 of them you wouldn't want anyways because you have May. So you would never go for Ward, and you would never go for Sanders. So those 2 guys would be out the door. So now it comes down to, would you have wanted Travis Hunter for wide receiver / cornerback? Or, as you said, I would have took the 1 and then make that trade, open up the floodgates and say, okay, I'm going to get a 1 from next year, maybe another 4 and 3 this year. That might have been the way to go, unless you thought Hunter, because he's going to be the only one that you can think of, especially if Ward goes 2 and Sanders goes 3. So right now in the mock draft, there's an offensive tackle from Texas. That's supposed to be the guy at number 4. course, Patriots need offensive tackle help. Will he go there or will they trade that pick? But to me, if they got the number one, it's what you said. You should trade it because they needed so much and they could have got so much more from it.
Not only that, it's a crapshoot too, right? So obviously, if you have 5 or 6 picks and you hit on 40% of them, that's already a number of guys that you wouldn't have otherwise gotten. I mean,
Right.
I'd rather have that than the number one pick. Yeah, because a lot of times the number one pick doesn't even work out. It's how many you have in the upper echelon that seems to work best.
Yeah, the first pick is also, it's risky. Anyone that's at the top of the, picking number one is, it's almost like a disadvantage. It's almost like a disadvantage because you've had the pick of the litter and this is who you pick. And a lot of them don't, as much background checking as they do. And they just don't make it in the NFL for whatever reason, And building more collateral, this team to improve, in my opinion, needs more than one player. They need a number of different people on, the offensive side. And on the defensive side, we thought they were all set. Excuse me. And then all of a sudden this year, their defense couldn't stop a runny nose,
Oh, yeah, it was awful.
It's just very, very unfortunate. I mean, if you would have told me 10 years ago that we would be looking at the ownership of the New England Patriots and the status of this team, I would have told you were crazy, It's really, these dynasties never really end very well, but man, have we fell off the cliff.
And let's take a look too, Paul, at the top 3 teams in front of New England. Tennessee. Do you stay with Will Levis and Mason Rudolph, or do you go get one of those 2 quarterbacks? Next one, Cleveland Browns. Do you stay with Deshaun Watson? Do you stay with Bailey Zappi, or you go quarterback draft? So there's 2 quarterbacks gone. The next one is the Giants. What do the Giants want? They need a quarterback too. The first 3 teams need quarterbacks. So it's going to be quite interesting to say, well, wait a minute. There's this wide receiver / cornerback from Colorado, Hunter. Do we not get a quarterback and try to get that in the free agency instead? So it's going to be some shaking up in here, how that's going to be, because those 3 teams need quarterbacks. It's as simple as that. And the Patriots don't.
That's Chris. That's even if there's quarterbacks left after 3, there's teams, team 5, team 6, team 7.
Yep.
They could be looking to trade up.
Oh, easily. Easily. So number 5 is Jacksonville, but I don't think they'll trade. I think
they don't need a quarterback.
Yeah, he'll stay there. The next one's the Raiders. Yes, at number 6.
Yep.
So that one could be an opportunity. And then number 7 is the Jets. And I agree with you there as well.
Yeah. I mean, so, there's things that could happen. I just don't think that we're good enough to rely on, how many rounds do they have in the NFL? 5? 6?
Oh, in the draft?
Yeah.
I think
it's like 7. I think it's 7.
Is it
okay.
7?
Yeah,
I mean, we need
7.
more than 7 players, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And building collateral the way that, and I hate to say it like this, but like Bill Belichick used to do it. He built a lot of collateral in the later rounds, which, some we hit on, some we didn't. But in the top 4 rounds, it'd be nice to have 6, 7 picks over the next. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, they blew an opportunity, and as Chris said, this team needs a quarterback. That team needs a quarterback. I mean, you could have played those teams off of each other. Who wants to pick more?
As Paul says.
And there's still an opportunity for that, but it's a lot more difficult now,
Well, it is, yeah. And Paul says your percentage goes up when you have more picks.
Right.
That you have a chance for those guys to play in the NFL and be potential starters and so forth and so on. So that's the opportunity that, if someone up in number 19 or 20s says, hey, what's the Patriots doing over at number 4? They don't need a quarterback. They got May. Well, maybe I can sneak in there and see what I can get out of this. And then now it's not number 1. So that's where you have the problem where you can't get Cam Ward and you can't get Sanders. So those two will probably obviously be gone. So it's after that, if there's something out there that you can increase on. But that's what makes that tough, because if you had the 1, there'd be so many calls coming your way, you wouldn't know what to do with yourself.
The other thing, when you have a lot of high picks, you could trade those picks for a veteran too. You could trade those picks for, somebody that's established out there that maybe a team is dropping, but they still have a couple of stars, right? And you could trade that for a veteran player. But I also want to ask Butch, what do you think about the next coach? Now, we're hearing a lot about Mike Vrabel. What do you think about Vrabel, or is there another coach out there that you like better?
Yeah, I mean, he's, highly sought after by many different teams, I would imagine. I think he's already interviewed with the Jets, and he may have already interviewed with another team as well. I hate, it's more than the coach. We could get the best coach in the world, but with this roster right now, I think we did have the best coach in the world at one time, and with that roster, they stunk. So, but we need someone, I think, someone in the interim to make this bridge, secure. Like, we went from Bill Belichick, who never let the players talk to the media, wouldn't let the coaches talk to the media, was very strict on who could say what. And then you went to Mayo, who, it would appear, had limited to no rules that govern that type of operation. So, and I don't know what went on in the locker room and stuff like that, but it looked totally different.
Well, absolutely.
He spoke to the media. Bill didn't. I think Vrabel is probably going to be somewhere in the middle, right?
Well, I think he's going to be more like Belichick as far as letting his players speak. I think he's going to be, much more in control and command a lot more respect on the players. I guess it remains to be seen, but at least that's what I saw. But, I want to make a point. You mentioned the greatest coach of all time there. Here's a couple of points here. Number one, the greatest coach of all time had the same record as this guy.
Yeah, that's true.
Last year, and he had, I don't know. I don't think the roster was that much different. Number one, wait. Number two, real quick. Number two, here's Mike Vrabel's record: 56-48. That's without Tom Brady at quarterback.
Yeah.
Well, you know what Belichick's record was without Brady as quarterback? It was worse than that.
Yeah. The NFL is tough, man. The difference between a winning team and a losing team is probably, not a lot, is not a big difference.
Well, I'll let Chris go in a second, but, you look at the Patriots this year, right? How many games could they have won? Especially the first half of the season. They'd like, they should have won that one. Oh, geez, they should have won that one. Yeah, oh, God, they should have won that. What the hell? They should have won that one. Like, they almost could have been like around 500 if some of these games had gone their way. But I know, Chris, you're trying to make a point there.
Well, I think the point is that I'm looking at the longevity of what Bill has done during that time compared to you're only asking 1 year of what Mayo has done. So if you said, well, Bill went 4-15 and Mayo went 4-15, he did the same thing. I can't look at it that way because of the longevity and how successful Bill was compared to what Mayo is only did one. As Nelson had even said, Jimmy Johnson at one time went 1-15, but then turned it around the next year and went back-to-back Super Bowls. You got to look at it as what they went through during their career and how their career went and so forth. So to compare Bill with Mayo and do it that way, I can't even come close to even thinking about that because it's just two separate things. Now, as Butch says, was the environment there, which it wasn't, that could have won more games and better play calling and better situations, better clock management, better different things that could have built better to get maybe more than obviously 4 wins. Yes, I do believe might have won that game in overtime, Paul, or some of those other things that could have went their way. And a different or better coach would have made that happen this year. So comparing this 1 year to Bill's 1 year of 4 wins, I can't compare it like that
Yeah, but I would say like the last couple of years of Belichick, we would always say, well, there's another penalty, for false start. Yep. We would say, well, that's uncharacteristic of a Bill Belichick team.
Yeah,
then what happened in the next game and the next game and the next game and the next game, next thing it happened like 3 years in a row. I'm like, well, what the heck's going on? It's maybe this is a Bill Belichick team right now, because the point I'm making is no matter how good a coach you are, if you haven't got the players, you really can't win. And so, the rookie coach and the veteran coach ended up in the same result.
Yes.
So think about this, Chris. Wins above replacements.
Oh no! Butch is turning into a nerd.
Do you think that a coach is worth or can get a win or two?
Yes.
Or 3 in the NFL?
Yes.
Yes. You do? Yeah?
I would say. What do you think?
Yes, I do.
I believe that. Yes, right? I think at least 2 or 3 games, a well-coached team may not be the better team, but they're better coached, better disciplined.
Yep.
They could probably, maybe upset 2, maybe 3 teams a year. Yes, I do.
I definitely agree that. And I think that could have happened this year for New England. If there was something different there, and the environment around that and the togetherness just did not seem to gel between all the coaches and all the players. And I thought that a different scenario might have set them apart and got a few more wins out of it. Absolutely.
Do you think, Butch, that they were kind of unfair to Mayo? I mean, they put him in a tough spot, but did you think at the end of the year, the way everything went, that he really had to go?
I cannot, even today, I'm still shocked that they fired a man after 1 year. After, us knowing what led up to him being hired and, being the heir apparent and having 2 years with Bill in preparation. And I just can't believe after 1 year. Now, I did hear today, which kind of like eased my, disbelief in that a little bit, is that allegedly Mr. Kraft he didn't see any improvement. In fact, he saw a decline from game 1 to game 17, and he saw it going the other way. It's hard to argue otherwise.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, you got the Cincinnati game, and
shocked. I would have bet, if I was a betting man, I would have bet the mortgage that they would have given him another year. I'm really shocked. And no, I don't think it's fair. But he's still getting paid. I mean, the guy's not broke. But I think his career in the NFL as a head coach is over.
Well, I guess we'll have to see. Time will have to tell. I mean, maybe he might get a job as a defensive coordinator somewhere and maybe try to work his way back that way.
He's going to have to. I mean, you see anybody, lining up to interview Gerard Mayo?
No,
right.
No, this year.
All right, Butch. Hey, thanks very much for the call. Appreciate it.
All right, fellas.
All right, Butch from Acushnet. Everybody's jumping in. I see Charlie Perry.
And Butch said it, and I'll repeat it. Remember, this was a process. This was the heir apparent to Bill. This was written in stone over 2 years ago. The Kraft said, this is your job when Bill is done. It was a done deal. There was no finding anyone else. There was no interviews for anyone else. It was, give me Mayo. He's our guy. We're going to go with it. So it's not like, as you said, they just threw him to the fire right away. No, he knew what was going on. He knew what kind of team he had. He knew what it was like for the last 2 years. So that's why, to me, they spent so much time, so much energy, so much potential and hype to get them where he wanted it. And then they bang and let him go just like that. That's what surprises me.
Right. I think we touched upon it last week, too. I know I did. And that is that, it didn't feel like they gave Mayo like full authority to make decisions. He even slipped a line in there when they asked him a question about why didn't you go for it on 4th down. He's like, well, ask him, not me. Almost like he let it slip out. And then he went, I didn't really mean that, or you said it, I didn't, or something like that. Basically, what he's saying is that, hey, I don't really make those decisions. And really, I wanted to start Drake May at the beginning of the season, but they wouldn't let me. They went with what the offensive coordinator wanted to do. Well, I'm the head coach. I'm supposed to make that decision over the offensive coordinator. So right at the beginning, it almost felt like he had one hand tied behind his back.
Yeah, to a point, but maybe thinking, okay, they're going to go out and spend some more money. They're going to give me a couple of more guys that I could use. I get that. But, what the Crafts and him have been dealing with and talking about day after day for over 365 days and then another 365 days, I'm sure they had in plan exactly what was going to happen and get this, underway and get it started. So, I'm going down the path where I'm really surprised they let him go in the direction that fast after what you did to try to get him to be your head coach.
All right. If you'd like to get in, we have a few minutes left here. 774-218-3393. What about the last game of the season? Should the Patriots have put a little bit more effort into losing that game so they could have got the number 1 pick? Number 2, what do you think about the firing of Drake May so quickly? And who do you think should be the next guy? Right now, it seems like the person with the leg up is Mike Vrabel, although you do have Brian Flores, who has a very good record, especially on the defensive side of the ball. You have Ben Johnson, who's the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions, and he's obviously having a great season. And Butch has just chimed in. Paul wanted him fired on the sideline.
You did?
Yes. Well, actually.
No.
I forgot about that.
I text you, and then I called you, and I laughed, and you said, I want him fired right now. You said, I want him fired right now. Butch was sitting right next to me. Butch heard it. He was right there. And he goes, did he just say that? I go, yes. He wants him fired right now.
I wanted somebody to call down there and say, hey.
That's what you said.
Well, but I didn't know that Bill was going to fire him right then, But I was thinking if he's going to come back next year, okay, lose this game. Like, what are you doing? Well, you're not going to lose the game. I wanted somebody to radio down and say, get this guy the hell out of there and get somebody that can lose one more game. I mean, you've been doing it all year. Yes, that is true. I plead guilty to that one. I have 2 eyewitnesses to that account. But anyway, yeah, they waited till the post-game show was over, and then they did it when they were off the air. And Marty is saying, rotten Paul. Yeah, I don't know, man. It just seems to me that boatload of picks and what you could have done with a boatload of picks, 5, 6, 7 picks over the next couple of years in those first couple of rounds, man, you could have done so much with that. Now you're not going to have as much. So I don't know. It's big. We're not going to know now, but let's say 2 or 3 years from now, we look back and say, oh my God, this guy, that guy, this guy, again, it's an inexact science, but the more picks you have, the better chance you have of hitting.
Marty puts you on the spot, Paul, and says, who then could have done a better job than Mayo with what he had? Marty says, I don't think anybody. Do you think there could have been a coach out there? Let's say a Mike Tomlin. Do you think Mike Tomlin with this team and what you saw this year could have won more games than 4 than what Mayo won?
No, I don't.
I'm going to say Mike Tomlin.
No, I don't. But the reason why I came around to letting him go is because I think he just lost control of the room. I think he didn't have the respect of the players. He didn't have the respect of the veterans. Yep. Players were talking, to the media. And in fact, one of the players was talking to the media, and they asked Mayo about it. He says, oh, I'll talk to him about it. So he goes, oh, I talked to him. We're good now. Then the following week, the player even made another statement even worse than the week before. So, once it gets to that point, again, I do think he kind of was put in a bad spot. I agree with everything that everybody says about Mayo. I like the guy. The guy comes across as a likable guy. But it got so bad that I think he really had to do it. Kind of what Kraft said. Yep. He didn't want to do it. He feels bad that he had to do it. He likes the guy and everything, but he just felt
and the only way that I will disagree with Marty and yourself is that let's say you had a Tomlin at the beginning of the year, a guy like that and some of them other coaches would have not have let it gone that far.
Right.
And the players would have played better, or they would have had something and they would have got some more wins. Now, I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs and go on a rampage and win 12, Marty. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying better than 4. Okay? Because I think coaches by environment and coaching and strategies and clock management and all that stuff can find a way to win 2 or 3 games for you. So, yes, I believe somebody else could have done a little bit better job. But I get what Paul is saying as well. It's tough with the cast of characters you had, but I still think it could have been a little bit different.
Right. So let me, you're persuading me a little bit here. I think a really good coach with a lot of experience probably could have squeezed a few more wins. Not anything significant. But again, think about this, right? When you start losing and you start losing every week, it's easier to continue to lose, right? So you go back to the early part of this year, right? Okay, they won that Cincinnati game. Now, if they could have won that second game against Seattle, which they really should have won, right? There was that sack. Like they should have kicked the field goal. The game's over. Now you got the Miami game. You really could have been 3-1. So now, do they lose all those games after that? If they're 3-1, well, at 3-1, you're feeling good. The coach is looking good. The players like the coach. You're 3-1. Maybe they could have snowballed that into something a little bit better. Right? Is that what you're saying? I agree with you there.
Here comes the snowball effect.
Right.
And why did we lose that one? We start pointing fingers. Hey, you're going to start this week. Oh, no, wait a minute. I'm going to put you in instead. And then it starts that. And then the next game comes up. Now here comes some bad moves. Here comes some, bad calls. Here comes some penalties. Here comes this. And everything just starts to go like quicksand. And you keep sinking and sinking. And the more you keep trying to fight out of it, the more deep you get going down. And unfortunately, that happens in all sports. That's just the way that it goes. But it's how you handle it, Paul. Can you get better? Some can, some cannot.
Right. You saw the way Judon behaved, right? He was kind of disrespectful to the coach. He was sitting on the, on the barrel there.
Lost Peppers during the year. And Peppers wasn't playing bad at that time, too. Then you got some injuries. Then Gonzalez got hurt. And then this guy, a lot of things go on. And again, it all snowballs. And then it's, oh boy, it's all on me. And then, they got to put someone to put the blame. And there's the main man to get the blame in Gerard Mayo.
If the Patriots had won a couple of those games that they should have won at the beginning of the year and they were 3-1 instead of 1-3, maybe Judon isn't sitting on that barrel going, oh, I want to get out of here. You know what I mean? He might have been feeling a little bit better, like, oh, 3-1, okay, maybe we have a shot for the playoffs here. But as soon as it started going, like you said, like quicksand, and Judon's like, hey, I ain't playing, I'm getting out of here.
Paul, I know you know a lot of sports. I'm a loyalty guy. I've always have been. I don't understand how a lot of teams, and this is happening in every sport, let them get away with, hey, I don't want to play here no more. I'm leaving.
And so they trade him to a good spot too. Yeah, right.
Tyreek Hill doesn't want to play with Miami no more. Jimmy Butler, I don't want to play with the Miami Heat no more. There's guys that you can start. Judon did it, a couple more, because the atmosphere and I'm not winning or giving me a chance to win all of a sudden just takes over. And to me, I'd rather sit that guy down and just put him there and say, pal, I hope you rot at home.
Well, that's what Bill used to do, in all fairness.
If somebody really wants you, I'm going to get every penny worth. I'm going to get every player worth. I'm going to go out and do whatever I can to get the best out of that because your loyalty has just left me. That's how I feel. In all
fairness to the Belichick people, Belichick would do that. He'd have the guy rot there.
Yeah, because I don't like that.
Yeah, to dump Judon for a 4th-round pick.
Yeah,
I thought that was crap. I'm like, are you kidding me? This guy was the best. He was the best player on your team for many of the games. So, I didn't understand that. Well, anyway, we'd like to take the opportunity to thank our sponsor, Scotty's Pub, 202 Pleasant Street in Fall River, citywide glass with 3 locations to serve you in Dartmouth, Fall River, and Taunton. Lakeville Athletic Club, 325 Bedford Street in the town of Lakeville, and John Seed, attorney at law, 156 8th Street in New Bedford. You can go to his website at johnseedlaw.com. Thank you to our callers. Thank you to all of those who are in the comment line. We had a fun show today. I do feel better. I a lot of times, Chris, this is like therapy, and I don't even have to pay you to be my therapist.
Listen,
I'm just,
you needed it this week. You definitely listen. I called Ryan. I said, listen, I might take a drive to Fall River just to check the Braga Bridge.
Well, the thing that's great is we text a lot during these games. We text it all the time, text all the time. But usually we don't call each other, but we text back and forth. So I'm sitting there and I'm like ready to throw stuff at the TV, and I can't believe it's going. All of a sudden I see my phone go bzz, bzz. I see it's Chris Santos, and I go, oh boy, I got to take this call, and I hit the accept button. All as I hear is, all I hear is laughing on the other end of the phone. I'm like, you son of a. Oh my God!
Because right before that, that's when you text us and said, I would fire him on the sideline right now. Somebody called down and fired.
The sideline.
So Butch looked at me and I looked at Butch and I went, now I got to call him, Butch.
Take the headset right off of his head, get him out of there, put another guy in there, and lose the effing game, okay? All right. Well, anyway, let's see what happens. Maybe even between now and the next time we're back, we may have a coach. I don't know. It's
have one by then.
Of course, we've got the poor Bruins who are sinking like the Titanic, and the Celtics are like a wagon continuing to roll on. So we got plenty of time to talk about those guys as we proceed along.
Hey, okay. So Timmy Cornick, thanks a lot. Marty Consaccio, thanks a lot. Charlie Perry chimed in. Butch Ferrera, obviously. Thanks, guys, for all your comments and the guys who called as well. Always a fun show.
All right. Thank you very much. For Chris Santos, I'm Paul Santos. Take care, and we'll talk to you again soon.